I've told this story many times before, but I don't want to keep repeating myself, so figured I'd put this on film. I'm going to go over the history and current setup of my newest addition to the family. I've actually had him almost for a couple years now and really haven't done much with him as I really didn't have the time. But this is Casper. Casper is a 2005 GMC Sierra 2500 extended cab short bed. This truck, I'm the second owner. The original owner, Pat McSwain, or known as McRat, bought this truck brand new just for drag racing. This is actually Casper 2. Casper 1 was a Chevrolet two-wheel drive that didn't last very long, as he thought two-wheel drive would be a better solution, but his other truck, Big Blue, that he no longer has, was four-wheel drive, or is four-wheel drive, and the two-wheel drive didn't pack a punch like Blue did, so he traded the Casper 1 in on this one. He went all the way up to Las Vegas to pick it up. It's actually currently sitting on its slicks, or drag radials. I don't drive them too much, as I have the little silver bomb over here, and Betty's at home. This was the first truck to actually do something. This was the first Duramax to run 11s back in 2006, and this was the first LOI to run 12s. Actually, the only LOI to run 12s. But you gotta understand though, LB7 was the longest running Duramax around that time, and everyone was focusing their resources on the LB7. When this came out, Pat was already drag racing his blue truck. Before EFI Live even came out, there was, because EFI Live didn't come to the States until 2004, and it wasn't really popular then anyway. So when this truck came into the picture, stuff started changing really quick. With the help of PPE, Pacific Performance Engineering, regardless of what people say about them, and some opinions I have of them too, but the reality is, without their help and the resources they had and still have, this truck wouldn't have done what it did. There's some special parts in this truck that PPE tried out, SoCal Diesel tried on here, Mike at Inglewood's done a lot of testing on this truck. I peeled all the stickers off because if I'm going to start driving them on the street, I don't want all the stickers on here, but I have them all in magnetic form. The PP sticker used to be there, the Mike L sticker used to be right there, the big SoCal sticker used to be there, NHRDA, that's no longer around, the SAD used to be there. I left Casper's little tramp stamp on it. I think it's cute. And then those are the stickers that Garrett sent to PPE to put on the truck, or to Pat. I got them there. And I left the truck clip sticker on, just because I don't have anywhere else to put them. And the Bonneville stickers, the EFI Live sticker still there. It's one of the first ones. And the poster child of Duramax diesels, always has been. Duramax diesels was started around 2006 when Diesel Place sold off, but that's another history. This truck was running 10s back in 2007. There's been a lot of turbochargers tried on this truck, starting from the PPE's 4088, 4094 kit, and it ended up running this GT42. Pat's tried some Borg Warners and stuff like that. He had, when he ran an 11, he had an HT turbo in here. It was a small one, and non-VGT, but with the stock turbo in this truck, I was running 12.6s, 12.5s, something like that back in the day. And before EFI Live, the fastest time this truck had, it had the triple stack of death in it back in the day. It had the triple stack of death used to be the PPE Hot Plus 2 level 10, the boost controller, and what was called a Van Aken timing module. Back in the day, PPE didn't have access to, if you guys know your tunes, there's a timing cap on these trucks. It's set at 20 degrees maximum ejection timing. Well, PPE didn't have a way to get around that, so a box came out from a guy by the name of Van Aken, or that was the name of the box, that was able to add injection timing to the Duramax. All the PPE tuner did was just added the fuel and did some other parameter changes. The boost controller, which was invented because we weren't able to access boost tables either. So basically all PPE did was add fuel to it, and the two other modules did the rest. Back in the day, we also had what's called a finger stick to shut the EGR off, and a bunch of other little gadgets and stuff like that that not a lot of people really know about now, but they're kind of outdated. They're very outdated, but back then, that's all we had. So, as time went on, this truck got faster and faster and faster. The fastest time this truck ever ran at a quarter mile was 10.59 at 129. The fastest mile an hour was 132. McGrath ran a 10.65 against Jimmy Smith back in 2007, something like that. 10.6 at 132 in the finals of what was DHRA. They're no longer around, thank goodness. So, and that was fast back then. You know, that was actually Pro Street. Pro Street was 10.50, now no more. So, gonna just show you what's in this truck, what it has, and you know, it's a little different now. It's actually no longer an LOI. It's a full LBZ 6-speed combo. It was used when it went to Bonneville. This truck holds the diesel truck A series record out at the Bonneville Salt Flats at 175. As you can see, barely. The sticker's still there. 175 mile an hour. And it's gone to El Mirage, El Mirage, El Mirage. And as you can see, it's got some safety equipment for LSR. Cute little rinky-dink mirrors. And there's a bunch of other stuff in here too that is Bonneville spec. So it's now back to full street mode. The Bonneville trim has been removed. It is back to you know, 4-wheel drive. It was converted to 2-wheel drive for Bonneville, but it's no longer anymore. So I'm going to show you what's under the hood. It's not the prettiest at the moment, but I'm working on it. And I'll go walk around the rest of the vehicle and show you what this thing has. It really doesn't have a whole hell of a lot. People are surprised when this thing runs. People think it has more. It doesn't. This thing only makes 800 horsepower. And for what it has, it's pretty amazing. So I'm going to pop the hood in a minute and show you what we got. There she is. That's the world's first dual feeler wheel right there. Not the world's first kit anymore, but the first kit was developed on this truck. Yes, I have a dust ventilation tube as an intake. This is the Ghettoist Maximus McGrath style intake. As there wasn't anybody doing custom fabbing or custom tubing back in 2006, 2000, whenever this thing was installed. So Pat had to improvise. Pat made his own intake. This is actually all PP stuff now. But back in the day, when this was still an LOI, Pat made his own tubing. He went online, found some pre-done pieces and some intercooler boots, and actually put his own intake together. And this is a Banks intercooler pipe, which has been modified a little bit. It needs to be painted, but it's been modified to fit the output flange of this turbo, and it goes to a PP intercooler. I mean, this is one of the first trucks to have a PP intercooler. Yes, it's running stock boots too, believe it or not, and it hasn't blown one yet. It never has. It needs the fan shrouds put back in it, but that's later. But that is a nice tight fan clutch. This thing really helps. But this is, you know, the first dual feeler setup, or first truck to have it. This is actually not the first kit anymore. It's running 2 stock pumps with modified regulators from a company that's not around anymore, but Wicked Diesel. McGrath and him worked very closely to get this stuff on the market, and it did, you know, it did really good. Pat was impressed, and yeah, I got some crops growing under here, but I gotta clean this truck. But I had to put a new filter in because the radiator blew up at Sacramento last year. If you saw the video on the live stream, you'd have seen this whole side of the truck blow out. Took out the original filter, so AFE is actually local to me, and we found that they found this filter for me. and they said it wouldn't suck itself in, so it's been pretty good so far. One of the first sets of the Rick Lance manufactured, and I'm not going to get into the manifolds and up pipes debate, that's pretty childish now, but these are PPE manifolds that were manufactured by Profab. This is before PPE started making their own. This is one of the first sets. This is one of the first GT42 kits. It's actually not even a GT42. It technically is. This is what's called a 42 Magnum. This is a 42. This is basically a GT4508 Garrett with a 42 front cover on it. So it's basically an 80 millimeter. It does really good. It's very streetable. At around, I'd say around 2,000 RPM, something like that. You can sustain around 10 pounds of boost or something like that, no problem. And it does. I can power brake this thing up to. It's got a loose converter in it, but I can power brake it to like 2700 and actually get 10 pounds out of it and cut one 560-foots out of this truck. So it's not too bad. It's running stock injectors too, believe it or not. Those guys right there. They're stock with some croppage. It's got no fender well, so every time the gardeners show up here, they blow, they blow leaves into my engine bay. As you can also see, the damage caused by when the radiator blew up. It knocked a sensor out. I'll show you the stuff inside. This is a fire suppression system that was put in for land speed racing, and the PCV system that runs all the way to the back for Bonneville was supposed to. One of the first PPE compound turbo intercooler tanks, or reservoirs. It's literally a boost tube. That's all it is. And regular old Stant cap. Might have pressure in it still, because I just drove them. Yep. Now, head gaskets aren't blown for people that are naysayers, but it has no thermostats. When you have no thermostats in these trucks, it creates excess pressure. So that's why you have a truck with no thermostats. This will be hard as a rock, but it will bleed out pressure overnight. So, and that's not why the radiator blew up. The radiator blew up. That actually, yes, and it had shit in it. But that's basically under the hood of this. There's nothing. There's really nothing to it. I need to clean it up a little bit, but the engine is a SoCal diesel engine. It's got their stage 2 heads, their 9200 standard fire cam. I wish it was an alternate firing, but oh well. LBZ crank. It is a full LBZ motor, because if you look down, oh, it can't. But if you were to look at the balancer, and if you know how to how to identify the harmonic balancers, that would be an LBZ balancer. It's got stock pistons that are been delipped and derated down to 15.5 to 1 compression. This truck never cracked a piston ever. It bent rods, but it never cracked a piston. And this thing has a hot tune in it, even after I redid it. And before I got it, it never cracked a piston. It only blew up, I think, it only hurt one engine, and then it officially blew it up. It ran a 10.8 on the factory engine, and then it finally gave up the ghost. When this thing was running, when it first made its first 10-second pass, which was a 1095, had the stock engine in it. It didn't even have 2,000. It didn't even have 10,000 miles on it yet. I don't even think it had 5,000 miles on it. This thing got sprayed with nitrous at less than 1,000 miles on it. The nitrous kit's not in here anymore, but it will be reinstalled. I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to make a video on how to install a cheap, do-it-yourself nitrous kit that's easy to use, and it's basically the similar setup, actually the same setup, but the electronics are different, of what this truck ran. But it had a small nitrous kit on it. That's it. And it ran a 10.5 with a baby shot of nitrous. I'll make a video on how to do that later. But we're going to go inside the truck now and show you what's in here. It's actually what you see on the outside. You wouldn't believe what's on the inside. And that's McGrath style exhaust right there. It's easy to do. I like it because when I'm going down the track, since I tune this thing myself, I like to see this thing defuel. It's not explainable in this video, but I can watch this thing defuel and see how good or bad it's doing. And I can watch the videos later on and look down the track and see and look at the data logs and versus RPMs and mile an hour and see when this thing defuels pretty bad. If it does, it actually does really good. It's got, all it has is a stock TCM in it. That's it. It's just got high shift points. It doesn't have any torque management, no shift timing. You can't really mess with that stuff anyway. People do, and they mess transmissions up really bad, and they don't quite understand. They think they're tuners, but they're not. But that's a stock. That TCM right there has the factory torque management and defuel in it, and it does just fine. Let's go inside the truck. Don't mind the mess in here. I haven't had time to go through them, but I just drove the truck. That's my tablet I take everywhere. But this is literally the inside. It wasn't always like this. This is actually a Bonneville spec roll cage. This bar was put in as an extra support, which I'm going to be removing because any trade does not require that roll bar. As you can kind of tell by the paint, it had head bars on either side, because if you go over a certain amount, this truck's never going to go that fast. As much as I want it to, I don't see him in that in his future. I just see him running 10-second quarter mile, and that's it. Because I still, want to use it. But, for what it has, and for how much money's in this truck, land speed stuff don't count. But if you count the working parts in this truck, there's really not much in here. So it's kind of amazing. It's been totally gutted. That seat's going away because that seat's totally uncomfortable, but that's the 200 mile an hour seat. This truck did unofficially go 200. There was a GPS system in the truck at the time, and it clocked a max speed of 210. But it officially was clocked at 197 when the parachutes were pulled. That's this Kanabi right here. Now there are 2 fire extinguishers on board. One for, apparently looks like one per side. The way the fire suppression works is it not only sprays you, because if you're on fire, that's kind of bad, but there's a couple, I believe there's one more here, and there's another jet somewhere in here. I think there's only 2, but follow these lines. There you go, along the roll cage through the firewall. Comes through the firewall near the cage where it attaches to the chassis. Comes over here. And this is actually a nozzle, and it sprays here because if there's a fuel fire, it'll put it out, but it also tees off and it will snuff the engine out. That's actually look at that nice pretty blue block. You can definitely tell that's a SoCal motor right there. Anyway, they call for an engine snuffing system as well, so this kind of acts as it. I was going to put something here I was going to put the nitrous port here, but I'm going to leave it capped. I'm going to put it in the Y bridge. The Y bridge technically goes from here, starts here, and it ends in there. It's a PPE style Y bridge. All it is a Y bridge off of an LBZ LMM van, because it comes out to the top, and they just modify it for their boost tubing. Because if anyone would take apart an LBZ van and look at the intake bridge, that's all that it is. The Kodiak bridges are the exact same as the pickup trucks, but the van ones are a little different. These are the big SoCal heads. These are the stage 2s, and it's got a big cam in it. Stock injectors, manifolds and up pipes, all that good stuff I mentioned earlier. But anyway, we come over here. There's another suppression port coming through. Another nozzle here. I hate cameras without eye views. And then there's another port that's that's it. Stops right here. It doesn't snuff the intercooler, but it snuffs it on the other side. Thing's running stock motor mounts too, and it's never broken motor mount. There's a bunch of stuff in here. This gauge actually is the gauge that goes to, there's a couple different EGT ports on this engine. This one goes to the gauge on the dash, and the other one, because I'll show you the data logger in a minute. The other one goes to the turbo pedestal. PPE had some ports threaded into here, a little rusty, but there's another probe. This probe goes all the way down. Just follow the blue wire, and it goes to this. Now, not many people know what this is, and I can't get support for it anymore, but that's what this is. It's an ISPRO Performax Master Controller. You can literally hook up multiple different parameters or different gauges, like right here is the EGT gauge. There's a couple other different ones in here that McGrath hooked up, and there we go. Plug it into your computer, and you can data log along with your EFI Live stuff. The reason why Pat did this is because he also had EFI Live hooked up, you know, on the OBD port over there. The reason why Pat had this, and it kind of makes sense. If you're data logging this thing, and for some reason, because you can only monitor a handful of PIDs on here on EFI Live, and if for some reason the CAN bus shuts off or distorts and whatever, but you still can go, you want an actual manual data log. You can manually data log coolant temperature, engine oil pressure, boost pressures, dry pressure, EGTs, whatever, anything this thing allows for, any PSIs, temperatures, whatever, voltages, you know, whatever accessories you add on to it. I think you can put nitrous pressure in here, but it's also, I'll go around the other side to show you, but there's another gauge that not a lot of people use anymore. It's starting to rain. But I put a console back up here. I kind of hacked. This is Betty's old overhead console. It broke, but I kind of put it in here because I'm going to put gauges and switches back up here and kind of redo the interior a little bit. But this is just up here to be up here. So I'll go around the other side and show you the other side. Yes, it's an 05 with a tap shift, and yes, it's an 05 with an 06 cluster. This is literally an 05 LBZ. It looks like it's basically something the factory would do. But let's go on the other side. I'm trying not to hit, you know, the old silver bomb over here. But this truck is equipped with a door bar, so I can easily get my fat ass in and out of here. That side does not have one. And nice thing is, the doors still work. Even got the Bose speakers in the door still. This is an SLT. It's been completely stripped and gutted. Okay. A lot of people don't know what that is. Turbo speed gauge. That's a good tool to have for turbos that actually have that port in it. This turbo has a port for it in the compressor housing. All it does is it measures how fast your compressor wheel is going so you don't overspin it. Garrett has specifications on their turbos on the optimal speed they need to run so you don't overspin them. Some problems is that when these guys are tuning these trucks or these guys run them, their setups are wrong. They'll overfuel the turbos and they'll overspin them, and they'll just self-destruct. That's happened on a lot of trucks in the truck club. A couple Fast Cummins guys have broke like that, and a couple Duramax guys have too. So with a turbo gauge, you can easily tell where your optimal running speeds need to be. And the only gauges this truck really has, mechanical gauge-wise, that's a joke, because that buries like right between, you know, that goes in between auto and meter like it's nothing. So again, that's a joke. And this, you know, this is an old PPE gauge, but I usually run it. It usually runs right around here. More so this area, around 45-50 pounds. It's the optimal number for it. Yes, it's an 06 cluster. Came from the donor truck. That was at it. It came from the donor truck that we got all the that McCrack got all the electronics from. Other than that, there's really not much to this thing. Just the cage, the fire suppression, the fuzzy dice that broke, I got to replace. Betty has a set that hangs from there too. That's never going away unless the radio goes back in, but that's this truck's heritage. It ain't going anywhere. Now this little funky panel is Bonneville Spec 2. They call for an ignition lock, so the vehicle cannot attempt to restart while it's under high speed. It had electric fans on it. The hookups are still there. McGrath's got the fans still. And the lift pump switch is, you know, the lift pump's manually controlled, as you can see. So now, without further ado, I'm going to show you the startup procedure. He does have a full key fob, but I never use it. When I go to the track, I just carry the key, and it's starting to rain, so Lift pump's not going to come on right away. You don't have to turn the lift pump on to do it, but as you're going to notice, uh-oh, he doesn't start. Of course he does. He starts with a push button, not a key. I'm going to fix that. Sounds even wilder going down the track though, especially in the cab. Just listen to this thing idle. The smoothest thing I've ever heard. Sounds like a sewing machine on steroids. And you're reading that correctly. That's a SoCal special. That's the Bonneville timing cover that's in there. The Bonneville block had 2 oil squirters per cylinder to help lubricate and cool the pistons down, as the EGTs were way past this. So to shut this thing off, you just turn the lift pump off. I'm going to make it so this is powered by the key, so I can leave it on, but if I have to turn it off for tuning, I'll just turn the lift pump off. Because I've accidentally done that. Because you can still crank it with the key out, but that's something we're going to fix. But that's Casper. Not much to him. I wish I could tell you guys more, but there's really nothing to it. Oh, it has been re-geared. It has 342s, front and rear. And for those of you that are wondering what size slick I'm running, I gotta find the size. There's a size slick I run. And I just run the ET Streets. I don't know what brand these wheels are, but they're wide, but they don't stick out.